welcome to another of those videos where we talk about movies. I love movies and I love to complain about movies, but there's something that I like even more, to be honest. Not realized movies. In one of our past podcast videos from Two Guys with a Beard, that I will link somewhere, I guess, or not, we talked once about rejected Batman movies, and it was a blast. Because it is awesome to read the ideas that were supposed to be and add the magic of your imagination to it. In this video, or as I like to call them, solo monologues, I will review our top 5. Why 5? So let's go. Here we have the top 5 of sequels that were rejected. Number 5. Roger Rabbit 2. The Toon Platoon. The Toon Platoon took place in 1941, 6 years before the actual events of the original movie. Roger learns that he was adopted and then moved to Hollywood from Midwest with Richie Davenport, his human friend, with the mission to find Roger's real parents. Once in Hollywood, Roger meets the lovely Jessica Krupnik, who would later become his wife. Roger and Richie enlist in the US Army. Then they find out that Jessica gets kidnapped by a Nazi spy, and Roger and Richie needs to go to the Nazi-occupied Europe during World War II to save Jessica. Right. After saving Jessica in the third act of the movie, they all go back to Hollywood safe and sound and are getting a hero's parade. Roger is then reunited with his parents and discovers that his father is Bugs Bunny. In the 1990s, the name of the project was changed to Who Discovered Roger Rabbit, but Steven Spielberg, who would have been the executive producer at this, had no interest to return for a sequel. He didn't fail to be right, to be the person who satirized and lampooned the Nazis after doing Schindler's List. And it would have been fun, actually, but I do understand his point of view in this case for his resume. Then the project was cancelled since the budget ballooned and Disney wanted to concentrate more on CGI animation after the success of Toy Story and A Bug's Life. The only real thing that we got from this movie is the test footage that you can see here.
So what do you think, big fella?
And with this, the project of the sequel from Roger Rabbit died. I think it was probably for the best. Number 4. Number 4 is Jurassic Park 4. Before we received this kind of reboot sequel called Jurassic World, there were several years ideas that went around to do a sequel and release Jurassic Park 4. Several screenwriters were hired to write and rewrite drafts. The idea was that the dinosaurs escaped this time from Site A to the mainland. I just imagine the flying dinosaurs taking the normal dinosaurs and escaping the island. I don't know. Once they arrived to the mainland, the mercenaries team would await them. There are human dinosaurs hybrids. Yes, human dinosaur hybrids. And they also would have their own dinosaur pets. Deinonychus would have assisted them. Sam Neill and Richard Attenborough were supposed to come back and reprise their roles. Also, an early Keira Knightley was in talks for a supporting role. The sequel was in development for years, starting after the release of Jurassic Park 3. But the 2007 to 2008 Writers Guild of America strike delayed the project further. As the producers weren't happy with draft after draft of screenplays from Mark Prostosavich and writing team Rick Jaffa and Amanda Silver. Steven Spielberg felt neither of the drafts balanced the science and adventure elements effectively. It's a tough compromise to reach, as too much science will make the movie too talky, but too much adventure will make it seem too hollow. So they didn't find a way to explain for regular people how human dinosaur hybrids were able to create and how they work. In 2013, then writer-director Colin Trevorrow was brought on the project with a new and improved version of the Jurassic Park 4 screenplay, which was now titled Jurassic World. Set for release during the summer of 2015 and went on to become one of the highest grossing films of all time. Number 3. Indiana Jones and the Monkey King. Did I just say Indiana Jones and the Monkey? Is this right? Let me check. Yes, Indiana Jones and the Monkey King. Before Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade, George Lucas wrote an 8-page draft called Indiana Jones and the Monkey King that was in 1984. The film would have begun in Scotland in 1937 with Indiana Jones fighting the ghost of Baron Seymour Seagrove III before heading to Africa to search for the Fountain of Youth, which was later changed to the Garden of Immortal Peace. Indy's old friend, Scratchy Bear, Dr. Claire Clark, and a 200-year-old Pygmy would join him on an adventure in Africa trying to get away from the Nazis. Indiana Jones dies in the story only to be resurrected by the Monkey King. What the fuck? Chris Columbus was brought on to write a script, but after 4 drafts, Spielberg and Lucas ultimately passed on the story because they felt it would be too difficult to film. Spielberg recalled, "It was upbeat and full of the same nostalgia that we taped into Raiders of the Lost Ark. So in that sense, Chris was right on the money. But I don't think any of us wanted to go to Africa for 4 months and try to get Indy to ride a rhinoceros and a multi-vehicular chase, which was one of the sequences Chris had written. Once I got into the script, I began to feel very old, too old to direct it. I don't mean rhinoceros and vehicular car chase, ghosts and 200-year-old Pygmy. I know that fantasy, magic and all this is possible in Indiana Jones. Still, it sounds too weird. At least they showed us the Monkey King in Indiana Jones and the Crystal Skull." Number 2. In 1986, after the release of Aliens, 20th Century Fox was anxious to turn Alien into a franchise, but quickly ran into story problems, while developing the third film over the next 6 years. A number of writers were brought on to write a screenplay that involved the survivors of the Sulaco either going to the Xenomorphs' home or the killer aliens coming to Earth. The movie studio even made a trailer that strongly suggested and teased the latter, even thought it never happened in Alien 3 actually. In 1987, one promising action-heavy idea came from cyberpunk author William Gibson, who wrote a version of Alien 3 where Higgs discovers the Weyland-Yutani Corporation is making an alien army while the people of a floating space station fight back against an invasion. The idea was scrapped when Fox wanted more screen time for Sigourney Weaver's Ripley, who was in a coma throughout the majority of the film, because Sigourney Weaver is the centerpiece of the series. Fox president Joe Roth said Ripley was really the only female warrior we have in our movie mythology. In 1990, the New Zealand filmmaker Vincent Ward was hired to direct Alien 3, based on a pitch he came up with on the flight to Los Angeles. He thought of Ripley crash landing on a planet made completely out of wood and discovering a monastery full of all male monks who see the aliens as punishment from God. The sequel would have been an examination of Ripley's soul and psyche through the series, and a fitting end of the character. Number 1. Beetlejuice Goes Hawaiian. It was 1990 and Tim Burton was hot and was asked to write a Beetlejuice sequel and to do it as soon as possible. But at this time Burton was not interested in doing any kind of sequel And he still isn't, right? Or is there any secret of Tim Burton? Well, yeah, there's Batman Returns, but maybe this is a reason why he should not do sequels, but this is another topic. So, what does he do? He was asked for a Beetlejuice sequel, and he pitches an idea so bad that he thought the studio would reject it. So he came up with Beetlejuice Goes Hawaiian. But being Tim Burton, he could also took a piece of his own shit, say that it is a script for Beetlejuice sequel, and the studio still would have loved it. The premise was that the Deeds family is moving to Hawaii, only to discover the tropical resort they bought and developing sits on top of an ancient burial ground of a Hawaiian kahuna. So something really bad and really haunted. Once again, they call upon the service of Beetlejuice to scare the spirits and ghosts away, while he also gets a suntan, wins a surfing contest, and tries to marry Lydia Deetz again. God knows why Warner Brothers loved the idea. And Michael Keaton and Ryder said it was okay, but only if Tim Burton would come back. But the filmmaker was busy making Batman Returns. According to the screenwriter Jonathan James, Tim thought it would be funny to match the surfing backdrop of a beach movie with some sort of German expressionism, because they're totally wrong together. That was top 5 list for rejected sequels. I hope you liked it. I hope you got some crazy ideas. Thank you. We're able to play with your imagination. So thank you much for watching. I really appreciate it. And if you would like to subscribe or follow us on Twitter to get more information or some inside movie trivia, what I like to release sometimes, just subscribe or follow us or whatsoever.